that since this stuff happened a couple weeks ago, a few of my buddies and I have been collecting signatures on behalf of UofL students who think this is wrong. And I want to read you what it says at the top and let you know that we have had more than 250 signatures sign this and say that they want fair elections. UofL student rights are in jeopardy and we need to take action. Due to a technical error with ULink, the entire Kent School undergraduate population was unable to exercise their constitutional right to vote in both the SGA general election and presidential runoff. However, the Supreme Court is refusing to hear the pleas of these disenfranchised students. As their own opinion, they think it's meritless. That's what they're hiding around right now, that students who are disenfranchised, they think that's meritless. They don't defend that what they did was right or wrong, they just said it's meritless, so they don't have to consider it and offer an opinion. I don't think you should allow them the right to make the case for why they think it's meritless. That students were disenfranchised is just disgusting. To do nothing about that and call that meritless, I think underscores your need to be out of office and for us to address the bottom of the iceberg, like some of us are saying. Nevertheless, the SGA Senate has been working tirelessly to give these students a voice. Don't forget that you guys did this last week, or last minute meeting. Senators have failed or have tried no fewer than 4 different solutions, all of which have been stubbornly and often unconstitutionally rejected by the court. Now we need your help to right this injustice. By signing below, you declare that you support universal suffrage for all students and our efforts to bring that about. We believe that the ability to vote in student government elections is not a privilege, but a right. Only when the voices of all students are equally heard will SGA be able to say that we are truly a government of the students. For our part, we senators pledge to continue to be a government for the people, even in the face of an aloof judiciary that is deaf to student concerns. And we have 250 students, including faculty, staff. I had a state rep's wife sign this thing because she was so disgusted. So I think you have to remember that when you decide whether or not you want to allow the Kent students to vote. Impeach or not, we have to allow these students to vote. That's what's ultimately most important here today. So rectify that, please.
Thank you. Just so everybody's still on the same page, we're discussing impeachment proceedings for the court. We're not talking about the resolution. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about whether or not this body wants to impeach those 6 people. It's 6 people, just so everybody's aware. It's not 7, it's 6. Listen. So that's what we're discussing. We're not discussing anything else. Keep your comments to that. Sana, you have the floor.
I didn't realize I was my hand, but I'll go ahead and talk. I'd like to that's okay. I'd like to echo what Vice President Agrawal said earlier, and the court acted in their constitutional duties, and the opinions that they provided us and everything they've done so far has, they've acted under the rights granted to them by the Constitution. And just as Max Morley mentioned, the rights that our court has in student government are very similar to what the Supreme Court of the United States has. And if we have a problem with that, each of those justices have been appointed because of, it would prove that they can remain impartial. In the executive branch, we're not supposed to be impartial necessarily. It's not my responsibility, or yours, Senator Kaya, or yours, to decide whether or not something is constitutional. It is their right, and they've acted in their constitutional duties.
Thank you. Paul.
And unfortunately, it's our right within our constitutional duties in the face of malfeasance on behalf of the court to impeach them. Me personally, I find the entire situation, the fact that a case about 100 disenfranchised students not being meritorious, I find that to be malfeasance. But me personally, I agree with Allison Hunter too. If we could avoid impeaching the court at all, I'd want to do that. And if we could, I've got my next resolution on here that's talking about trying to get the Kent students to vote, just like we passed last time. If the court would agree to just see that through right now, then I wouldn't want to impeach them. I just want to see the Kent students vote. And if we can do that, I think, like Allison said, we can actually do a service to students instead of creating the bloodbath that's going on. But I just don't see that I had any other options coming into this.
All
and
right.
I'd like to yield whatever little time I have left to the court to see if they'd be willing to perhaps consider that.
The court, you have 1 minute and 47 seconds if you want.
Can I ask what we're considering?
Just
the resolution
supporting
for enfranchisement of all students. It's in a packet.
Can I
you can go for it.
Real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Essentially what it says is the Kent students would vote on the days when we don't know what it is. It's a resolution, yes.
I have no opinion about it.
Well, no, I was asking if you'd be willing to conduct the elections if the Senate passed this resolution. I'm not asking for an opinion about a resolution. I'm asking if you'll be willing to conduct the elections as per that resolution.
The court has already conducted the 2010 general election.
which are not actually final for the Constitution until the last Senate meeting. And it says all election proceedings ought to be over till then. Real quick what it says, just so you know. It says that the Kent students would vote. Their votes would be added into the general election total. If nothing changed, which it probably wouldn't, they'd vote in the runoff elections that they still couldn't vote in. And that would be added in, and then everything would be carried on from there. The students get to vote. All this is over. I'm just asking if you all are willing to consider that, because even though we might not want to impeach you here, we still think this thing was done wrong. So, sorry. Yield time. Would you all consider that? Conducting our elections.
I don't know what this has to do with the court's pending impeachment. So.
Because I spoke with Dean Martin today, and he was of the opinion that if the court were to conduct the elections, student affairs would put them on. And without the court conducting the elections, that's not going to happen. So all I'm asking is if you all will. The impeachments were about the Kent students. That was the key thing there. The Kent students not getting to vote. And if you all are willing to rectify that, I don't want to impeach you.
Okay, just so everyone's together, the people that have extinguished their time speaking are Jeremy and Paul. Mike, you are about to extinguish yours, and then Jerry, you're next. So just so everybody's clear what's going on. Mike, you have the floor.
I yield the floor to Justice Romer.
Thank you. I think Senator Hammond actually hit on a great point earlier, which I'd like to bounce off of a little bit. The Constitution and bylaws is a big document, huge document in fact, but it certainly doesn't address every single thing that's ever happened in the history of government and politics. No, it does. And that's why the court, the 7, or in this case 6, people are appointed to positions to help provide clarifications, recommendations, and opinions based on some of the natural ambiguities that exist in language, and also for specific cases that are filed to it. So when we had a specific case filed to us related to this issue, that again, we aren't talking about this issue, though people will continue to talk about the issue. When the case was filed to us, we used our constitutional authority to make a decision on it. And that's what we did. There's an opinion on the internet right now dealing with that. To parlay off of that, that is far within our constitutional authority, as we've established many times. I've been on the court for 3 years, and we have deemed many cases, in fact most of our cases, without merit and haven't gone to the formal hearing environment that's very typical for a court case. So specifically, Senator Hammond addressed the actual language in the Constitution. When I was first appointed to Chief Justice, the court actually took time out of its summer, which would have been 2 summers ago coming up, took time out of the summer to do some of those updates. And we had a fantastically successful work with some incoming senators at the time, top 4, including O.J. Laka, and the court. And it was a fantastic 3-branch, since we all are on the same team after all, so we did. A 3-branch conglomerate that got together and worked on bringing some of these ambiguities out. And that parlaying with the court for the first time stepping into the arena of attending Senate meetings, which wasn't done until 2 years ago, and also helping to promote elections instead of just manage them, which for the first time this year the court partook in.
I gotta stop you.
Thank you.
All right, Jared.
All right, so the only body of the SGA government that can influence another body, the only part of the SGA government that can demand something of the other parts of the SGA body is the Senate. The executive branch cannot tell the Senate what to do. The court can rule things unconstitutional when a public hearing is addressed. A case must be brought before the Supreme Court. Courts just don't go around saying that law is illegal. Guess what? There's a case. If they could say everything was illegal without having a public hearing, nothing the Senate does would have any influence anywhere. The Supreme Court would have all of the power. The SGA Senate would have no power at all.
Point of inquiry. Can I make a
You
statement?
can point of inquiry if you want to. That's a point, and that's an order, and you're welcome to do it.
I just want to say, I think we need to be careful about claiming that the Supreme Court must do this or they must do that. The United States Supreme Court hears or has submitted thousands of cases every year on certiorari, and they only hear 2% of those cases. So to say that the Supreme Court must do this and must do that when it comes to hearings is not entirely fair to the court, and I don't think it's fair to this body either.
So I will build off of that. So the only body of the SGA's the only body of SGA that can compel other branches to do things is the Senate. We passed a resolution compelling the Supreme Court to hold an election. If they held a case, the Supreme Court could have brought a case up. Somebody from the executive branch, any of the senators could have brought a case and say, you know what, this resolution, SGA ER2, is unconstitutional. The election results are final. That still has not happened. Without that step, everything the Senate does is nothing. This is not just about the Kent School students. In the end, it is, and that's what's important. But the thing that's most important to me is the stability of the system. What students think of the system. I talk about this subject to all of my constituents. They constantly go, SGA needs to be better. And the first step on getting better, I believe, is impeaching the court because they acted outside of their authority.
Thank you. Cody, you have the floor now. Jared, that was your second. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh, no, it's missing time, sorry. Thank you.
You're over? Okay. Kate, it's your turn, dear.
Okay, this might be like a really elementary question, and I apologize if it's been covered, but on what grounds was the case, why didn't it have merit? Like what specifically about the case, what made it merit?
You can respond. Did you hear that? She asked why it didn't have merit. You can respond to that.
Right. Not a relevant question. Has nothing to do with anything.
Well, I mean, I'm not asking this in an adversarial way.
Oh, no, but, I mean, okay, I know you're not, but the issue is the impeachment of the court. That's all we're talking about right now.
I mean, I'm very aware, but that's going
Right.
to influence like whether or not I want to.
But it shouldn't. The only decision is whether or not we have the ability to deem something without that.
Okay. Kyle Schuler, it is your turn.
I would like to yield the floor to ex-Associate Justice Olivia.
Okay, you guys have used the word disenfranchised. Oh, can I just start by saying my last name is spelled M-C-M-I-L-L, Egan, thank you. But you guys have said the word disenfranchised a lot tonight, and I am a second-year student here. I have been to a lot of Senate meetings. I sat through every single one last year, and I love SGA. That is why I actually resigned from the Supreme Court, because I couldn't be impartial, and I know it would be unconstitutional for me to sit in a courtroom for 5 hours and try and deem whether someone did something inside the election rules if I was too passionate about one side or the other. So I took myself out of it. I gave up sleep, I gave up eating, so I could help SGA campaigns, so I could force people to vote and make sure they understood what they were voting about. $600,000 is a lot of money, and I told a lot of people that. But I've been sitting back here for 2 hours while you guys have been talking about me and the people that I have grown to respect. Even though I'm not on court anymore, I respect those people, and they do their job and they do it well. I'm disenfranchised now. I have spent the last week finding people to work for the executive staff for next year. 45 people want to work in a branch of government because they want to work with you guys. So many people said that they love Senate. That's why I asked them, why do you want to be an SGA? Because Senate does so many good things. They obviously haven't been to one of these meetings, because this makes me want to not be an SGA.
Personal privilege. Sorry I misspelled your name. It was spelled wrong on mine.
That's okay. It wasn't a personal attack on you.
Oh, no.
Just so everybody knows, she knows.
On the
She
SGA
knows
website.
what?
Point of order, Olivia McMillan is not on the SGA Judicial Branch website.
Point of order.
Okay. Guess what? But you don't get to talk right now. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk right now, but somebody has to. And as Jerome said a few minutes ago, quit your points. If you got something to say, you get somebody to give you the floor. I'm tired of it. I need to get this finished. That's what needs to happen right now. Linda, you have the floor. Nobody else has the floor. Linda, you've got your 2 minutes, and I believe it's your second time.
Okay, I'm TA here, and I teach cultural diversity, and we talk a lot about a lot of things that have been passed throughout history and a lot of things that have been declared constitutional by Supreme Courts throughout history regarding immigration, regarding slavery. There have been a lot of laws on the books since we're